Question. Do you think that some of us are so independent, self-focused, that close, long-term love relationships are just out of the question? Do you think some avatars don't have it in their divine plan to have a long-term love relationship that is both balanced, accelerating, and functional? Like perhaps some are not meant to. Why are relationships so hard, feel insurmountable, impossible for some and not for others? Is it just me? Why is life on earth so damn difficult in regards to these damn standards and projections as options for us to live up to? Well, my first reaction is this. You think some avatars don't have it in their divine plans to have a long-term love relationship, like perhaps some are not meant to. Yeah, there's nothing you are meant to or not meant to, because everything is subject to your free will. But so let's just go over this. You think that some of us are so independent that close long-term relationships are just out of the question. Yes, that can be the case for some people. You know, this is a really, really subtle thing because it is so individual. And therefore, I'm not trying to say that there is nobody who has it in their divine plan to not have a long-term relationship. I'm sure there can be people who maybe have been monks or nuns for several lifetimes. There can be people who have reached a certain level of spiritual maturity where they don't need a relationship and where they have just chosen, I want to focus on some particular aspect of life or some particular aspect of spirituality, and I don't want a long-term relationship in my next embodiment. But I think that if that was the case, you would feel at peace about it. And you would not have any longing for a relationship or not having the sense that it's difficult. So what I see more in spiritual people is that spiritual people are frustrated by relationships. And this, I think, has two aspects of it. First of all, why are you frustrated? Because you have subconscious selves. So we all have subconscious selves about relationships. I'm married for the fourth time. I've certainly had subconscious selves about relationships in my first 3 marriages and in this one as well. So I think most spiritual people have that. But the other thing about spiritual people is that we have possibly in past lives been very focused on spiritual growth and been very self-focused. We might have lived in a monastery, we might have lived in some kind of monastic ashram type setting where we were focused on spiritual growth. And then we are so used to only thinking about ourselves that it suddenly becomes more difficult to incorporate another person. It's like we are so used to looking at the world from our perspective, there really isn't room for another human being in our relationship. And I can certainly see that in myself. But I also know that it was part of my divine plan to have relationships because I had to overcome this. I had to overcome the focus on self. So a lot of my relationship issues was really about overcoming this focus on self and the subconscious selves that made me so focused on self. It was what in popularly is called ego pummeling. And a lot of my life has been this, ego pummeling. And so what I would say is that if you feel like relationships are a source of frustration, and it seems like, why is life on earth so damn difficult? It seems there's a slight, I detect a slight touch of frustration there. You know, maybe I'm overly sensitive, but I detect a little bit of frustration. If that's the case, I would say it's probably part of your divine plan that you should work on the subconscious selves you have concerning relationships. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have asked the question. So I would say, do that. You know, look at the relationships you've had. Look at your reactions to relationships. Can you see certain patterns? I came to a point after my 3rd divorce where I saw some clear patterns in my first 3 relationships, and look for those patterns, and then ask yourself, what are the subconscious selves here? What is the deeper belief that I have in terms of this balance? Because this is what you're talking about. Are we so independent, self-focused that we can't have a long-term relationship? These are you self-focused, or are there selves that make you self-focused? That is the question. And I would say there are selves, for certainly for me it was. And I'm not saying that you can't come to a point on the spiritual path where you decide you want to live alone. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that if there's frustration, there are obviously subconscious selves, and it's part of your divine plan to overcome those. And if you haven't overcome them, then you are entering relationships because you want to force yourself to deal with these selves. So you could look at your relationships as a way to force yourself to go to therapy. You are locking yourself in the psychologist's office. And I would say probably your partners have the same thing. So you are meant to smoothen off each other's rough edges, so to speak, help each other to see the selves. And even if you had a relationship that ended in frustration 10 years ago, you can still go back and look at it and say, what was my reactions? Why did I react that way? Why did I think it was so important? And then come to resolve it. And then you have made a major step forward on your spiritual path. And perhaps you come to a point where you have worked through all of the subconscious selves you have in terms of relationships. And one of 2 things will happen. Either you'll decide you don't want in a relationship, or you will find a partner with whom you can have a long-term relationship. But either way, you'll be at peace with it. There won't be any frustration. So as long as there's frustration, as long as there's these damn standards and projections for us to live up to, there's something you haven't resolved. And so use the tools and the teachings the masters have given to uncover those subconscious selves.